Hello and welcome back to Kuon. Last episode was certainly something else at the last 45 seconds, now wasn't it? In that we saw that Utsuki saw someone in the reflection of the water as she was doing the ritual to save. So that's the first part of the end game. What could it mean? Seeing her sister instead of herself. Was she fearing to become her sister? Or is there something else at work here? Let's continue on. So here's a weird, almost non sequitur I wanted to talk about while I climb down this ladder. And that is the life cycle of a silkworm. Now very quickly, and I don't want to bore you guys with the particulars, but a silkworm is a type of caterpillar, as you will know, and silkworms, when they are in their larval state, they will eat and eat and eat, and their choice of diet is a mulberry leaf. They will begin molting, and they will molt around 9 times, and keep that number in mind. And then they will start up their chrysalis phase. Now what happens when they're in their chrysalis is their bodies basically dissolve, and the stem cells that were up until then dormant will form them into something new, and they will form into these colorless moths. And we've already seen one of the moths. The moths cannot fly in domesticated silkworms. So there's a lot of themes of resurrection and becoming something else in silkworms, and that is something evoked in this game. So let's use this rope and climb up. As we can see, there's a few Buddha that have collapsed into this cavern. And we enter into the temple. And the temple is the other side of this guy who had the worst night imaginable. It breathed its last breath here. Its arms outstretched as though it was begging for its life. And right here, which is probably his, and it probably floated away from his hands, is a map of the temple. So you're never without a map for too long. On the other side of the hole is a Buddha. So let's see what's behind this door. Hallways are covered in silk. It looks like spider webs, and it's probably intentional, but it's all silk. We're pushed against the wall, and hands have grabbed at us, which will always happen if you have to go by. So let's calm ourselves down and take a quick look at that map. So it's not as big as the manor, but it is somewhat large. And while we're in the map, I wanted to mention that the chanting in the background is, I believe, to be the Heart Sutra. The camera angles are out of control, very Bloodborne-esque. There is that one camera angle when you're climbing into the carriage going to Canehurst that this is very reminiscent of. Let's take a look around. Where are we? There is a hallway and a library. Let's get out our knife. Start exploring around. So here is a big cocoon. A bloody cocoon blocks the path. Something is wriggling inside it. Now, like I said earlier, The cocoons a silkworm will make is when they're at their most vulnerable. They will dissolve themselves. Basically, they're eating themselves. What actually happens is they're like digesting. Dissolve is probably the wrong word for that. They're digesting themselves so that they become something else. And that's very important to understand with this game. So we can't go that way. Right in front of us is another door that we'll be taking. Looks like it's been clawed open with something or other. We're gonna head down to the library, which is this way. It's locked with a level 3 lock, an earth seal. Luckily, we've already gotten that, so we'll carry ourselves inside. As you might think, there's some scrolls here, and we find our first scroll exorcism. Long ago, a demon did emerge from the bowels of earth. It appeared human, but there was 3 meters tall, with arms as thick as a woman's waist. The demon was immortal. Neither swords nor fire could kill it. One day a man appeared. He was emaciated and clothed in rags. To the people who were at their wits' end, he said, "I will drive that demon away." The people took one look at the pitiful-looking figure and turned away, saying, "You would be a fool to embark upon such an enterprise." The man ignored the people's attempts to stop him. With the hint of a smile on his face, he approached the demon's lair. He pulled a spike from the folds of his clothing and threw it at the demon, penetrating its flesh, riveting it to the wall. Nailed to the wall, the demon shriveled up and died after 7 days and 7 nights of agony. The man explained to the people that spikes have the power to suppress demons. He gave them 3 spikes to use should the demon reappear, and departed. The grateful people placed the spikes in the small shrine in the temple, where they have been preserved ever since. A little bit of backstory there, and we have some writing on the wall. A sutra covers the wall. Some of the writing is illegible, and it's probably the same Heart Sutra that you're hearing, but some of it has faded. And on the desk there is a book. Priest's Journal, Volume 1, well-written journal by the elder priest. For several days now, strange sounds have been emanating from the ground under my feet. At first, I thought I was imagining them, but I hear them even more clearly at night when I sleep. They've been very strange, perhaps a cross between agony and pleasure. They say a creature emerged from the bowels of the earth, and that this temple was built to prevent it from proceeding any further. Perhaps the creature has awakened underneath this temple and is howling. If it has been trapped there for years, no wonder it screams sound. So sad. That might be the same, that's probably the same creature that we're thinking about from the exorcism. Its spirit having remained. The same sutra covers the walls, even here. And we have something else shiny. And here we find our very first upgrade to our dagger. It is the Winter Blade, defensive blade used by the god of North and Winter. So we're going to equip that. And it doesn't give you any more of a hit combo. You still have a 2-hit combo, but it does give you a bit more range and a bit more damage. So that's nice. Who said libraries only had books? I mean, I guess the libraries have daggers held by gods, too. Something good to know. But as we approach the door, we see the twins moving past. And that's never a good sign, is it? So we're gonna go straight ahead to the study.
Go away. Hurry, before the cocoon takes you.
But...
Never mind me. I've had a good life. Watch out for the sick. If they don't merge with other creatures soon, they will die. Corpses are needed for their cocoons.
So this was the elder priest of the shrine, and the man who was chanting the sutra. Now he's dead, the sutra is no more. And the sutra was doing a alright job at protecting the place, so now that he's gone. On his left we find this, which is a little pot. And we see that his head has been twisted all the way around. Utsuki, pick up the pot, please. There. Medicine jar. Medicine jar protected by Yakushiki. Yakushiki, yeah. The healer, who is a Buddha of medicine. And on his right, we see a biwa. There's an old biwa hanging there. Does it belong to the elder priest? Probably. We have some priestly items here. And so it looks like he was chanting, and there was a lot of the sick from the area just kind of hanging out here. And he caught the illness and eventually died. But he does give us a really interesting bit of lore there, and that is humans don't have those dormant cells a silkworm has to become something else. The gaki in the cocoons require another human to become something else. Because we're not silkworms, obviously. So let's move on. So they use the jump stairs as world state changes. So whenever they do that, they subtly, quickly load something else in under it. So that did something there. Hello. Nice singing. So now that we're done here, we can leave. And of course, with the sutra gone, the twins are able to manifest themselves pretty fully. Or just fully. Back to the cocoon. It hatches underneath the power of the twins. And out comes a gaki. So he's twitching. He's not dead. We're gonna fix that. So let's take a look inside here before we go down the stairs. So we find ourselves another door. And we suddenly are able to see through the eyes of somebody else. Because that wasn't us. We're right here. There's only one other person who wears a red Mai Goromono, which is kind of the overcoat. And that would be our sister. What is going on? So if we look around here, we find a new spell card, a summon card for Kugutsuona, puppet woman obeying her master's orders. Very similar to the Lost Sinner, without, like, the face mask. There's some more knickknacks. There's another vessel for us. And that's about it. And there's our sister, almost right on cue, dragging along a wicker casket behind her. We'll be following her, but there's another door. And here's another world state change in the form of a tempest. And after you cross the threshold of the staircase, the twins will block your path. They're basically herding you towards your destination. So if you run right past that door, you will probably miss it. So let's go in through this door, see what's going on. Calm ourselves a little bit. So there's a couple of chests here. And we'll be finding another Hien card. In this chest is a stack of old books here. Priest's Journal, Volume 2. The Elder Priest of the Shrine Nyoe's Journal. Lady Fujiwara departed from the manor with many sick people. She said that she was worried about what the sick might do if they weren't watched, and asked what that they be confined to the temple. I understand that Lady Fujiwara, too, has contracted the disease. But the sickness has not destroyed her human kindness. She reminds me of Confucius's saying about sacrificing one's life in an act of charity. I cannot help but admire her high sense of morality. And we'll find out more about Lady Fujiwara soon. I'm not sure if it's in this phase or in the next one. But there is something else right next to that chest. Making sure I've got everything there. So we find ourselves a placard with Yakushi's legends. Yakushi, who is a Buddha of medicine. The Buddha Emerald Light, the master of medicine. He is the deity who heals the sick. He has a merciful look on his face and holds a medicine jar in his left hand. Well, good for us that we found a medicine jar. There's nothing useful in here. There's another door. We'll be checking through here. Just for completion's sake. And we find ourselves a save point. which we will not need to use, but it's nice to know it's here. And it's just for that save point. Nothing left to do but to keep going. Buddhist images stand solemnly, illuminated by candlelight, and covered and defiled by silk. The door is opened, probably because of our sister. And until our sister triggers, we cannot open that. It's a 6th level, a Saturn seal. Wonder what's behind the door. Really important you walk around in here. So what we find are more Buddhist statues. A row of Buddhist images is visible in the dim light. Perhaps, since the shrine lies in ruins, their expressions are sad, which is the wrong there. Right next to it, we find more Sutegumo. The heartbeat basically will tell you if there's a ghost nearby that can trigger if you run around. An ancient Buddhist image is enshrined here. Let's go check out the other side. We get the same messages. Is this silk from a cocoon? Half of the Buddha's image is encased in silk. So we find Yakushi. The Yakushi has a serene smile. It appears something could be placed in his hand. Well, thankfully, we picked that up, so... we put it in his hand. The medicine jar was placed in his hand. Well, who knew that placing a jar in the Buddha's hand would unveil another secret passageway? Well, time to go down the rabbit hole, I guess. So, what I really like about this area is that it looks like it's covered in blood. It looks like it's made of blood, or like you're in somebody's body, because of the red tinge to the environment. What's this? Looks like it's another seal. Sacred cloth Mars. Bloodstained cloth removes seal Mars. And when we pick that up, we see a vision of our sister moving past. We're hot on the trail now. Nothing on the other side. And this bridge reminds me of Bloodborne, the old hunters, so much. The Red River, the River of Blood, in dichotomy to the river above us, and all beneath a shrine and a complex, as if we've traveled into Jigoku itself. So over here we find a few different items. Let's pick those up first. We find an elixir. We also find another silkworm journal. This time it's covered in blood. July 21st. I ran into the elder priest when I went to the shrine to get some mulberry leaves. He looked at the worms and said, "These are normal silkworms, unlike those found at the shrine." I wonder if that's true. I went to the temple to get mulberry leaves again today. The elder priest wasn't there, but Miyoshimaru said he saw the twins. I didn't see them, but I know he would not lie. When I returned from the shrine, the silkworms had started spinning cocoons. The silkworms started spinning silk yesterday. Today, they're cocoons. Miyoshimaru says we just have to wait. The cocoons are beautiful. They glitter like silver thread in the sunlight. July 27th. The cocoons are just sitting there. Nothing is happening. I shook them because I was afraid they were dead. They made a rattling sound. Miyoshimaru laughed and said they'll hatch soon enough. The moths have come out at last. After watching them for a while, I decided that it's cruel to shut them up in a box. I was going to take them outside and let them go, but Miyoshimaru stopped me. He said they can't survive outside. They all died as soon as they laid their eggs. Why do they have wings if they can't fly? And the actual reason in real life why domesticated silkworms can't fly is because they've been selectively bred so that they can't fly, so that they can't escape their farms, which also has some symmetry to Utsuki and her sister and her father and everybody who lives within this Fujiwara complex. They've been here for so long that it's hard to know whether they'd be able to survive in the outside world. Take a look at this body over here, because he looks way different from everybody else. The corpse here appears to have been an astrologer. Now, the localization calls him an astrologer. He's an onmyoji. And onmyoji could be astrologers, and that was part of their training, but they're also spiritual leaders and priests. So astrologer is correct, but not the whole story about what he is. And the fight about between onmyoji and their beliefs, and the rivalries between the onmyoji and how different that shows in their onmyojutsu will show up in the next phase, here and there, and towards the end of the game. So here we will find another door, and this has a Seal Saturn, a 6th level lock. We won't be opening that in this playthrough. It'll be, I forget it's the end is the next one or at the end game. So now that we're done here, let us prepare for something real quick. It gives me a good chance to show off Tsuchijogo. As if you can hear it, the heartbeat tells us something's gonna happen. And I'm not sure if you caught that, but at the very top of the screen, he got caught, and that problem was completely solved. Thank you, Tsuchijogo. That's one of those times when you're like, I'm gonna look at it, and I'm gonna realize it's a monster, but I don't really want to know what it is. So it gets to die. But what it leaves is this weird bit here. And there's no lore attached to it. It's just where it landed. So, back across the bridge. There's nothing else here, so I guess we got everything we came here for. Well, there is that save point we could use.
You need it again, don't you?
So that FMV is where we start having to really question how reliable a narrator Utsuki is. We heard Utsuki ask someone, probably her sister, if she needs it again, and now we awake in a casket of our own, covered in silk, as though it itself is a cocoon. If we meditate, because we got basically attacked with lots of tempest until we couldn't move, we find that we're still at full. And we're back in the underground. If we look over here, we find a few different items. First, there's a vessel. We find ourselves some more hibari. Some more tsuchijogo. And that's it. This, if you're wondering, the wavy pattern in the screen is the game. It's not me. It's probably to symbolize how messed up Utsuki is now after her encounter with her sister, maybe? And while this episode is short, there's a lot of revelations starting to unravel here, so I'd love to know what you guys think. And so for now, I'm going to call this an episode, and we are now caught up with the Twitter LP, and I'd love to know what you guys think about what's going on now. So until the next episode, or till next time, I'll see you then. Let's send our Sen down the river, shall we? Until next time, everybody.